Brewing love, a story of timing and tea. Steam rising from the kettle, sunlight peeking through the slight gap in my floral curtains, my seafoam green tea timer resting on the kitchen counter, an empty mug sitting beside it, the intricate pattern on my thick wool socks. 5 things I can see. Standing in the kitchen, still heavy-eyed from sleep, I push a tangle of curls from my forehead, lean my elbow against the cold Formica counter, run my fingers over the soft flannel of my pajama shirt, and press my heel lightly against the terrazzo floor. 4 things I can touch. Ethan steps into the kitchen behind me, his bare feet padding softly across the floor. The gentle murmur of the water boiling fills the silence, followed by the faint clink of 2 glasses being set in the sink, sending my body and mind into a slow simmer of their own. 3 things I can hear. He moves beside me, reaching up to pull 2 mugs from my creaky wooden cabinet. I don't turn my head to look at him. Not yet. I'm still grounding myself after last night's emotional whirlwind, but I don't have to search far for 2 things I can smell. His scent of cedarwood and winter mint surrounds me as he places the mugs on the counter. He crosses the room toward the cupboard, likely to grab my tea box. "What number are you on?" he asks. The fact that he knows me well enough to recognize when I'm using my grounding techniques settles my nerves another notch. There's still 1 sense left to complete. I press my fingertips to my lips, where the faint taste of honey and his lingering kiss still remains. "Almost done," I murmur. 5 steady breaths in and out, and I finally feel stable enough to face him. Slowly, I turn as he shifts back into my space. "Are you wearing my robe?" He leans against the counter next to me, all sleep-tousled and dreamy-eyed. "It's cozy, Olivia." Despite the warmth spreading in my chest, I smirk. "I know." "So are your slippers," he says with a yawn, rubbing his foot lightly against mine. I glance down at my soft pink slippers adorned with tiny strawberries. "I thought those looked familiar." He dangles a tea bag in front of my nose, and I reach up to take it from him. I always smell my tea before setting it in my cup. His hand lingers on mine, and I tense at the contact, not out of discomfort, but to resist the urge to lean into him. He gives my fingers a small, reassuring squeeze before letting go. On a slow inhale, I breathe in the chamomile leaves, and the familiar scent nestles deep in my chest. A bird chirps outside my window, filling the quiet morning air. He places his winter rooibos tea in his mug, and I busy myself with pouring water over both to let them steep. Everything feels normal, except for the unspoken tension in the air that comes from kissing your best friend the night before. For Ethan's part, he's as composed as ever, standing effortlessly in my kitchen, wearing my robe, drinking my tea, unknowingly holding my heart in his hands. "So, are we going to talk about last night?" he finally asks. "Nope," I say, a little too quickly. I keep my focus on the steam rising from my mug, my fingers reaching for the tea timer, setting it for 7 minutes. He bumps his arm lightly against my shoulder. "Come on, Liv." I shiver at the contact, feeling off balance. My senses are overwhelmed, tangled up in him. "You're cold," he murmurs, already untying the robe's belt and pulling it off his shoulders. I don't protest as he drapes it snugly around me and ties the belt into a small bow at my waist. This is how it has always been with Ethan. 10 years of friendship filled with small, intimate moments like this, moments I tried to ignore for the sake of keeping things uncomplicated. I've survived for years as his best friend, convincing myself that was enough. And then, last night, happened. "Better?" he asks. Better isn't the word I'd use. It's overwhelming, unbearable even, to feel so much all at once. I mumble, dunking my tea bag just to give my hands something to do. He turns toward me, and I stare down at my wool socks pressed against his borrowed slippers, which are at least 2 sizes too small on him. He tilts my chin up. Why can't we talk about it? Why not? Because I've spent years burying my feelings, only to have them unravel in one night. Because I kissed him, knowing it would change everything. Because once he pulled me into his lap, I didn't want to stop. Because that was part of the deal, I say, forcing my voice to be steady. Remember? I was your fake date to the wedding. One night of pretending. Now it's a new day. All night we'd joked about fake dating, glass slippers, and his car turning into a pumpkin. When he pulled me close on the couch, I was lightheaded with giddiness. We're still on a fake date until midnight, I'd whispered. And then he'd said it. The words that changed everything. I've wanted to kiss you all night. And I let him. So there's nothing to talk about? He asks now, arching a brow. Not even the part where you panicked and left me on the couch after we kissed? The tea timer ticks down, and with each second, my mind floods with everything I fear he might say next. It didn't mean anything. It won't change things. We can go back to being friends. 10 years of avoiding this moment, and I ruined it all in one night. Please, Liv, say something. There's an unsteadiness to his voice that catches me off guard. When I finally dare to meet his gaze, his golden brown eyes are darker than usual, filled with something unreadable. His hand taps restlessly against the counter. Ethan, my constant, my unshakable rock, looks anxious. And for the first time, I realize I'm not the only one afraid of losing something. He taps my forehead lightly. Please, tell me what's brewing up here. I want to tell him I've spent years convincing myself we were only ever meant to be friends. But instead, an entirely different question spills from my lips. Your speech last night. It wasn't the one you practiced. He stiffens slightly, then chuckles, scratching the back of his neck. Not impressed with my improv? I shake my head. That's not it. His speech had been unexpected. Instead of sticking to the carefully crafted words he had rehearsed all week, he had spoken about moments, tiny, significant moments, when he realized his sister was in love before she ever admitted it. And then he ended his toast with a simple, almost cryptic line. To falling. I exhale, bracing myself. If you regret the kiss, just say so. We can go back to the way things were. Pretend it never happened. Whatever you want. His eyes lock onto mine, steady and unreadable. I don't regret it. Something sharp lodges itself in my throat. But you don't want to be friends anymore? He lets out a slow breath, his thumb brushing lightly over my knuckles. That's where you're wrong. My lips part, confusion knotting in my chest. I don't understand. Ethan's voice drops lower, softer. I went off script because all I could think about the entire night was every moment over the past 10 years when I was falling in love with you. The words send a shockwave through me. My breath catches. And you just realized it last night? He shakes his head, a small smile playing at his lips. I've known for a long time, Liv. Then why didn't you ever tell me? He presses a lingering kiss to my forehead. Because you weren't ready to hear it. I don't need to ground myself anymore. Not when his arms are the only place I want to be. The tea timer dings behind us. Tea's ready, he murmurs. I smile, warmth flooding through me. So am I.